the decisive influence of female leadership. Today's focus, the female judge Deborah and Jael. Fine Foods, 7 minutes a day, 1 Bible a year. Grace and peace, everyone. Our reading today brings us to Judges, chapters 5 through 8. Our key verse is, villagers in Israel would not fight. They held back until I, Deborah, arose, a mother in Israel. Today's progress discusses female leadership and the influence of women. At that time, Israel did evil and oppressed under Jabin, king of Canaan. The text here says villagers would not fight. That meant the leaders were being inactive, failing to exert influence. Every tribe and clan had leaders, but these leaders failed to exert influence. Deborah emphasizes here that she served as a mother to Israel because the leaders were not functioning. Moreover, these leaders were basically all men, male, and in authority, yet they were ineffective. At such a time, who would arise? We must know that God's work and God's will must be fulfilled. Even if someone is unwilling, God will raise up another. Can women serve as leaders? Women can serve as leaders. Deborah served as a judge, acting as a leader in Israel. Proportionally speaking, there are fewer female leaders, but they can serve as leaders, whether as church small group leaders or as pastors. Women can also rise up to become leaders, and women can also defeat the enemy. Today, our heading mentions Deborah and Jael. Deborah was a female judge, and Jael was an ordinary woman. She also defeated the enemy. So today's progress is very interesting. Speaking of female leadership, it also addresses the influence of women. The book of Judges is characterized by disregarding the commands of the law. The record of Judges is characterized by disregard for the law. Today's reading covers chapters 5-8. Today we will focus on Deborah, the only female judge. Let's look at the text. The villagers would not fight. Who would arise? In the days of Shamgar son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the highways were abandoned. Travelers took to winding paths. Villagers in Israel would not fight. They held back until I, Deborah, arose, a mother in Israel. This explains the situation at that time. In fact, there was a judge then. As for the deeds of Shamgar, they are described very briefly in Judges, only a verse or two. The text also mentions Deborah serving as a judge, judging difficult cases. Whether this inactive refers to Shamgar or others is also a possibility. The highways were abandoned. Travelers took to winding paths. This means that at that time, they were under persecution. They were afraid, so they took to the back roads instead of the main roads to avoid oppression. Jabin, king of Canaan, is described as having iron chariots. They were very advanced. Thus, militarily, they were under the pressure of Jabin, king of Canaan. Earlier, we mentioned the cycle within the book of Judges. When they sinned and turned from God, they suffered punishment. When the suffering became unbearable, they cried out to God. Then God raised up judges to save them. Even if the officials were ineffective, even if the men were ineffective, God could still raise up a woman. Our nature and the Bible tell us that the man is the head and must take responsibility. However, some women have gifts, and in times of need, they can be raised up. This can be viewed from several perspectives. First, if we serve as officials, yet fail to do our duty, God will raise up others. Therefore, we should not think that everything depends on us. Because if a person is willing, they can be used by God. If the man fails to shoulder the responsibility, God can raise up a woman. Thirdly, God made everyone differently. Take a husband and wife, for example, or between co-workers. Under proper coordination, a small minority of women can serve as leaders. Men and brothers must also examine themselves. This passage is Deborah describing how God raised her up. Prior to that, when it was time for battle, Deborah commanded Barak to go to war against the king of Canaan. Barak's words here are very intriguing. Barak said to her, "If you go with me, I will go, but if you don't go with me, I won't go." Although he was a commander and a military leader, he still lacked assurance. Looking at Barak and the upcoming Jael, the leaders were inactive, the men were inactive, yet God's work is not inactive. He can raise up brothers and also raise up sisters. Indeed, they won the battle because Deborah went with him. And in the midst of this war, Sisera, the commander of the Canaanite army, was killed by the hand of Jael, a rather ordinary woman. Let's continue to look at the influence of women which affected the entire outcome of the battle. First, comparing this to the New Testament, Paul said, "Greet Priscilla and Aquila, my co-workers in Christ Jesus." In the book of Romans, Priscilla and Aquila are a married couple. Priscilla is the wife. Every time they are mentioned as a couple, the wife's name is listed first. This is a rare occurrence. Every word in the Bible has meaning. Priscilla, as a woman, was a female co-worker and had more influence. Then we come to Jael, the enemy's commander. Sisera fled. The commander of the Canaanite king fled. Although they had iron chariots, the Lord routed all his chariots. Thus, they were defeated and fled. Jael picked up a tent peg and a hammer and went quietly to Sisera while he lay fast asleep, exhausted. She drove the peg through his temple into the ground, and he died. So when their commander was fleeing, he escaped to the tent of Jael, a woman. She first offered him some milk while the Israelite troops were searching everywhere. It is entirely possible that the commander could have escaped or been rescued by other soldiers. Nevertheless, this woman, Jael, exerted her influence. What no one expected was that this commander, Sisera, would die at the hands of a woman. Following this, Judges chapter 5 provides a wonderful conclusion. "So may all your enemies perish, Lord, but may all who love you be like the sun when it rises in its strength." Then the land had peace 40 years. Today's scope can be summarized as focusing on women. Deborah served as a judge, yet the male commander Barak insisted that Deborah accompany him to battle. Furthermore, the enemy's commander died at the hands of Jael. And here it states, "So may all your enemies perish, Lord." Notice it does not say Israel's enemies, but your enemies, referring to the Lord's enemies. This implies that we stand with God. The Lord's enemies are our enemies. Our enemies are the Lord's enemies. Those who oppose the Lord shall perish like this. But those who love God, whether male or female, shall be like the sun when it rises in its strength. Then the land had peace for 40 years. Reading Guide to Judges. The book of Judges is characterized by disregarding the commands of the law set in the Judges' age. Chapter 5, the Song of Deborah. The female judge Deborah and Jael. Chapter 6, Gideon's calling. Gideon's fleece. Chapter 7, Gideon defeating the Midianites. This section is very exciting. Chapter 8, Gideon made and placed the gold ephod. Gideon serves as another example of failing to finish well. He was raised up by God and defeated the enemy with 300 brave men. This was originally a matter of great glory. The Israelites requested that Gideon or his descendants rule over them. Gideon replied, "I will not rule over you, nor will my son rule over you." This was originally a very humble statement. However, he went on to do something wrong. He demanded that the Israelites provide the gold to make an ephod. The ephod is the priestly garment. Maybe it was for a memorial, or maybe it was driven by Gideon's own ambition. In any case, this was wrong. The result was that the Israelites ended up worshiping the ephod, this priestly garment made of gold. Therefore, Gideon also failed to finish well, which is deeply regrettable. God raises up his servants, but regardless of the outcome, our focus must remain on God Himself. If we ourselves are victorious servants with a good testimony, we must be even more humble and guard against golden ephod incidents. Today's focus: the female judge Deborah and Jael. The influence of women. When the leaders are inactive and opportunity arises, women can also be raised up. Those who love the Lord, whether male or female, shall be like the sun when it rises in its strength. Blessed is the one whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. Fine food, 7 minutes. See you tomorrow.